Welcome again, listeners, to Radio Northern Beaches, 88.7, 90.3 FM, streaming live on our website, www.rnb.org.au. This program's Oz Music, and I'm Michael Lester. Musical difference is the topic of our discussion today, and in particular because musical difference is the title of a new CD that's just been released and put online and is being launched by local musicians, Stafford Sanders and Rod Crundwell, who go under the name and have for many years Men with Day Jobs. We've got Stafford and Rod here in the studio to talk about their release, their background together and their roots in music. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Thanks, Michael. Thank you, Michael. Nice to be with you.
Yeah, well, it's a big event, a new CD. I'm not sure when the last one came out by you. When was your last release?
Well, we had the last one is Men with Day Jobs, was probably a few years ago, but we've got a kind of alter ego band called Baggage and Stuff, which came out. When did that come out, Stafford? Sort of 18 months ago or so, 2 years later?
Yeah, a couple of years ago. Yeah. That was called Baggage and Stuff. And so, because we were working with a slightly extended lineup, we decided that we would call that band Baggage and Stuff. But it's now shifted back again to our earlier branding, which we've had since we sort of started the Men with Day Jobs project around about the year 2000, wasn't it?
When we had day jobs.
When we had day jobs, indeed.
In fact, we've talked previously here on Oz Music Radio Northern Beaches with you about Baggage and Stuff and featured the album and talked to you variously. In terms of your partnership, you mentioned you go back with Men with Day Jobs when you had jobs in 2000s, but I believe that the roots of your musical and creative partnership were way back in 1965, when you guys got together and how and what that was about when you got together as a creative partnership.
We were queued up on the Pittwater High School quadrangle to go into our first year classes, what's now called Year 7. And I found myself standing next to this tall, grinning idiot who seemed to know a bit about music. And we realised that we had music very much in common. And Rod played the piano and I played the guitar, and away it went. There was time of Beatles and everything else. And so we were just involved in the whole, daggy music scene from year dot.
That's right. And we did a couple of, what do you call them, gigs? I wouldn't call them gigs in those days. We called a couple of concerts, I suppose, performances. And we did a couple of performances in first year, and people at high school. I was playing the piano, Stafford played guitar and a bit of percussion and drums. But I didn't really know modern songs. All I knew was, I'd learned classical piano when I was younger, but all I really knew how to play was these old honky-tonk songs like, 5'2" and stuff. So
Winifred Atwell. Yeah, Rod had a whole Winifred Atwell collection.
Yeah. Brilliant. I learned these songs when I was 78. So so they were a honky-tonk thing. And I'm sure the audience of Pittwater High School were entranced by that.
Well, I'm kind of fascinated by the fact that you've called this collection of yours, this new one, Musical Differences, which features about 11 tracks on this CD. As I say, apparently it's going online and streaming services as of now. And you're going to be doing a launch on the 7th of August that we could talk about. But Musical Differences, an interesting title. Wondering, your creative partnership seems to have been sustained over a very long period, and often these sorts of differences within bands can lead to fractures and tensions. What's the source of the creative spirit between the two of you?
The first idea I had for the title was that it was the thing that you used to read in, I don't know if you remember Go Set magazine, all those magazines that came out in the 60s and 70s, right? Would say, the monkeys have now split up. And why have they split up? Oh, because of musical differences. That was a thing that used to be said, didn't it?
That's right.
Differences. Yeah. I thought that was the idea of it. But then of course, it's got the other level. That musical differences are the things that make something good, because they're the difference. And we have a lot in common in our musical tastes, but we have a lot of different points of difference as well. And I think out of that comes something unique. Hopefully, it comes something unique.
Yeah, it can provide the spark, we think, for a lot of musical partnership. And we've had our differences over the years. We certainly have, but we've always come back together again, even if we've had any fallings out over anything. It's always come back together because the pull of our sort of our energies in terms of wanting to collaborate with each other has always been really strong, and it's always felt very natural to be working together.
What are the differences between you in your background that you bring? Because this album features 11 tracks and I think says all songs written by Crundwell and Sanders. So you clearly have a certain synergy. What is the
Nearly
cause
all.
for that synergy?
Yes, look, we write songs together. Sometimes we write, sometimes the songs are written by one of us alone, more or less. But usually when we write a song, we have an idea, like a word or a little thing and a musical thing. And together we just tease it out into a song.
We've learned to trust the contributions that we each make. We've learned to sort of hardly ever say no to something. If I come in with some idea and Rod goes, oh, I think maybe we should do that with it. If my initial instinct might be to go, oh, no, that's not how I envisage it. Instead I go, well, okay, let's try that.
Yeah, it takes no time to try something, and either it works or it doesn't. You just have to be open to things and open to being wanting to develop your songs a bit. I noticed for a few years we were doing judging songwriter competitions. We did it for your colleague Russell Neal, and I noticed that a lot of the performers tend to want to stick to their original idea rather than try to develop it. And when working with each other, it gives us a kind of direction or a path to develop the song into something more than what it was.
We were inspired in one song by a guy called Levon Helm, who you'd know as the drummer and one of the singers in the band.
Yep.
And that one of the songs on the album is called "Them Beatniks Was Tough," and it's inspired by recollections of Levon. But Levon said at one stage, we're not so interested in sort of showing off what good musicians. We let the song lead us. When a song idea comes up, we try to feed the song what it seems to want. And so I think we've always followed that, to try and feed the song what it seems to want. And, being the shameless dabblers in the melting pot of popular music that we are, the song can lead in all sorts of different directions in terms of particularly musical genres and musical ideas, and lyrically.
The album and its songs represents a diverse range of certainly topics, subject matter, and I guess even styles. Talking about bands and creativity, we might take a listen to one of the tracks off this album. We're talking here with Stafford Sanders and Rod Crundwell about their new CD release, Musical Differences, a track called Boy Band. Dare I link that to a discussion of creativity? But anyway, tell us about this song and what it's come from and about.
About 7 or 8 years ago, Rod and I and Kim Constable, who also plays in Men with Day Jobs, we got booked to play a birthday party, and it was for a 90-year-old. She was the mother of a school friend of ours. It was just down at Mona Vale. This old lady was a great character, and she was going around saying to people, "Oh, you've got to come to my party. It's going to be really good. We booked a boy band." That was because when I was all sort of 60-somethings with silver hair, And so we thought that was pretty funny that we were referred to as a boy band. And sometime later we thought, well, hell, why not? They do make a lot of money. Why don't we do a song about being a boy band?
That's right. Yeah. Next thing will be like boys. What's the band?
To Men Boy,
or Backstreet Boys.
Backstreet Boys, or the others. Yeah, that's right.
That's all front yard boys, really.
I see Robert very much as the next Harry Styles,
Creativity is one thing between the two of you as you bounce off each other with your differences and synergies. But what about the idea of innovation? How much do you think your creativity has extended to more innovative approaches stimulated by what you do and changed over time, do you think, or not?
Yeah, it's a good question, isn't it, Seth? What do you think of that? I don't really know.
Well, I think you just keep an open mind, really. Innovation partly comes from your technique, I think. And Rod particularly has, I got to say, is a very, very skillful piano player who actually knows quite a lot of musical theory.
Right.
And so the options available to you when you have that on call are greater than they would be if you just, if you only knew a few chords and you'd only listen to a narrow range of music. Listening to a whole lot of different music is always a really good idea. And I know we both listen to a whole lot of stuff from classics through jazz, through all sorts of different genres,
I listen to any music. I sort of firmly believe that the more you love music, the more music you love. And also, just getting back to innovation, it doesn't necessarily mean novelty. was it Thomas Carlyle, the essayist, who said the essence of originality is not novelty but sincerity.
Oh, I like that one. And what a nice name drop too.
Oh, that's exactly. I mean, my old mate Tom Carlyle, Carlyle.
The depths of men with day jobs. And talking
Oh,
about and talking
complete,
about
complete wankers, really, both of
You
them.
can't say
and
that.
talk about the group as a whole. It's that you two guys that we focused on, but of course this album's been put together with four of your fellow musicians and colleagues. What do they bring to this creative partnership on this album? What range of skills and difference and whatever? Who are they?
Well, not as much as they would on some other albums. As it turned out, this album was sort of recorded in a little bit of a hiatus between two different lineups. And Rod and I realised we had a whole backlog of songs that we'd been working on, just the two of us. And so most of the album is material written by Rod and me.
Yeah, played by us, yeah.
But there's a few tracks where others have contributed to the writing and also will play on as well. That'll be more the case, I think, with our next album. Now that Kim and Peter are firmly back in the group, there'll be more sort of writing contributions from them and more singing contributions. We love working with other guys, and Kim and Peter are fantastic blokes. They're really good musicians. Kim is a bass player of great skill and also a really good singer. And Pete also sings and plays ukulele, and he's a real ukulele maestro.
So he's an A-list ukulelist.
And I notice there's a lot of emphasis on vocals because not only do both of you feature with vocals, but I think you attribute vocals even on this album to all four other members of the band.
Particularly on that track that you just played, it's got everyone on it. And
Well, Pete and Kim, sing on it. Also, Dennis Aubrey, who was in Baggage and Stuff, also sings a bit on that track. And there are a couple of other tracks where the other guys pop up a little bit too. Pete co-wrote another song, and Kim co-wrote one also. And Jim Manzi.
Jim Manzi, old pal of mine who's been around for a while. He was in old 55, and we've sort of known each other for a while. He made some contributions to the next song that you're going to play, Good Old Country Love Song.
Just before we get to that song, as you've mentioned, I think Men with Day Jobs goes back quite a long while. I think you said around 2000. One of the issues with creativity and innovation is, of course, keeping the spirit alive and fresh. And this can often involve needing to inject some new blood into the thing. To what extent have the people you've worked with, you've talked about the four currently, has the lineup changed? And is this a long time stable group as of now, or have you had many changes? And is that part of what you do?
Well, Rod and I were co-originators of Men with Day Jobs. We started in 2000 with another guy, Paul Fenton, who was a bandmate of ours from the late 1970s. And so the three of us started Men with Day Jobs, and then Paul moved to Tasmania, and Kim joined the band after that. So then it kicked on that way for a while, and then we had the Baggage and Stuff sort of experiment. Ken Stevenson also played on one album that he also produced in Melbourne. So it's moved around a bit, but Rod and I have been the common features of it from the outset, and Kim for most of it.
So it's a fairly stable outfit at this point.
I think so, yeah.
I think you'd call us stable, would you?
Yeah, so,
Well,
who knows what will happen next? I mean, it was sort of when we sort of after the European tour that we do, and then we sort of tour the States. We'll see how we go after that.
Maybe we might try another track for our listeners off your album, Musical Differences.
Well, we were talking about Good Old Country Love Song. That's
Well, it's a good upcoming love song, but I've got the idea. There was a TV series called Nashville, quite a long series, had 6 seasons, and during when we were locked down in COVID, my wife and I watched the whole 6 seasons basically straight through. But it's a bit of a soap opera. But at one point, sort of the main characters sort of writing these kind of political songs, and these publisher says, "Why don't you just write a good old country love song?" And I thought, I looked it up, and no one's written a song called that.
No one's actually written a song called A Good Old Country Love Song.
And the song's about what it is. It's
a perfect opportunity.
Yeah, so I just tried to write a commercial song, and like we've got some hopes for that it might sort of be a commercial, and sort of people will like it. So
And Jim Manzi sings on it as well. He's the sha la 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 lee voice that you hear in the background. You'd remember he was a key member of Old 55, the big sort
Yep.
of rock revival group with Frankie Holden and Wilbur Wilde and all those people. And Rod and Kim both at various stages played in that group.
Right. Well, we'll take a listen to Good Old Country Love Song, which is described in the CD cover as a country ballad with 3+ chords and the truth. Let's hear the
that's
truth
right.
out of
I'll tell you a quick gag about that too, because
this.
what's his name, Jimmy Webb, right?
Jimmy Webb, that's
Jimmy Webb. Jimmy Webb ran into who's that Australian country singer? The guy he's quite big now in the States.
right.
But he saw Jimmy Webb. He goes, Jimmy Webb, 23 chords and the truth.
One of the features, I think, of your music and songwriting over the years, you seem to have a great eye for social issues and commentary, and in fact, that drifts not only into humor but satire and what have you. Now, in terms of your songwriting, do you share the responsibilities for lyrics as well as the melodies, or do you divide that up, or how does that work?
Oh, we talk about them, you know.
Yeah,
We talk
I think
about
we
them.
try not to rule too many lines around anything. I'd probably say that Rod tends to write more of the music, and I write more of the lyrics. But it can change from song to song, and very often, sometimes it's sort of in terms of what work you want to do. When you go away and you do that niggly work that takes a while to do, well, it tends to be mostly on lyrics that I do that, and then mostly on music that Rod does it. So one way or another, we hope we eventually get it right.
No, the balance is pretty even, but it's like that old question. People say, "How do you write songs? What comes first, the music or the lyrics?" And there is many different ways of writing songs as we've written songs, really.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
we sometimes start with the title. Often we will start with the title.
Yeah, so often
Yeah,
a title or a phrase gives you an idea, and Rod will come up with a musical motif that seems to sort of embody that, and then it'll go from there. And I start having phrases that build towards a set of lyrics. But yeah, there's sometimes there's a lot of collaboration from the word go, and at other times we'll bring in songs which are sort of part completed and just sort of need some brushing up or filling out. Yeah, it's try not to make too many rules, I think.
Yeah, with this collection here, to what extent would you say it reflects a concern and a commentary on, contemporary social issues as such? I noticed you've got a song called Pests. Is that some sort of an environmental theme, or what is it? And
I've got a good friend who's an animal rights activist, and some of the stories that I get in terms of things like sort of culling of animals. Sometimes it's pretty horrific, and often it's not very well justified by the science. But it's occurred to us more than once that you start going on and on about feral pests, but often this is a bit of an excuse for not doing very much to stop the depredations of the biggest feral pest of all, which of course is us.
Yeah, that's the punchline of the song, really, because we are the pests. Yeah, at the end.
yeah, well, what a wonderful twist. As I say, you guys do have an eye to the social issues and commentary in your work, which is always a fascinating ingredient. As we wrap up here on Oz Music Radio Northern Beaches with our guests Stafford Sanders and Rod Crundwell from the band Men with Day Jobs, and your latest CD release, Musical Differences. What's the story with the release of this? You're putting it online, and it's online and streaming now. You're doing launches and gigs around it.
Yes, we are. It's on. I mean, I set the. It will be on all the streaming platforms as of the 1st of August. The horse's birthday, and then we do have a limited edition, 200 actual physical CDs, and we are having a launch, and the launch will take place at the Gasoline Pony in Marrickville.
It's on the 7th of August, Thursday night, the 7th of August.
A week away. In fact.
Yeah.
Presumably, people can find about you and your music and your gigs and everything else, and even maybe how to get copies of your CD if they wanted. Which, incidentally, I must say, has fascinating cover art, which we might talk about in a minute, and also an amazing picture of two guys from a long time ago, who I suspect are the two of you. Is that right?
It may well be. Yeah,
That's right.
it may well be.
That picture comes from 1977. we put together a little package that eventually became the demo that we took to record companies, and it resulted in our band at the time getting a contract with EMI to record a single. But so that was Rod and I from 1977. But the photo on the back, of course, of the CD shows the whole group as it is now, the four of us.
Yeah, indeed it does. But that picture from '77 really captures picture of an era, not only with the way you guys look, but the way you're framed and your attitude. And I see one of you, I'm not going to say who's, holding a pistol. Is that some reference to the track you've got on here, the George Lazenby Spy song, is it?
Well, it could be, but in fact, we had a song. I don't know. We were going to release a single, we never did, but the song was called "Armed to the Teeth." And so in that, this boys were armed to the teeth, and one of us has got a knife in their mouth, I think.
Yeah. I think I've got a knife in my mouth and Rod's holding a gun. Yeah, so we were sort of being kind of, sort of pirates or something, it was a sort of it was an attempt to be swashbuckling.
Now, I cut myself off a bit when we were telling listeners or advising listeners where they might find out more about what you're doing and where and when. Is there a website or what is there?
Facebook is the thing.
Facebook page. If you go to Facebook and look for Men with Day Jobs, we'll pop up, and all our gigs and activities are up on there.
And we occasionally put clips of songs up there as well.
Yeah, on YouTube too. There's if you look up Men with Day Jobs, all baggage and stuff on the YouTube search bar, you'll come up with a lot of clips that we've done, studio things and some from live appearances.
Yeah, and I guess you've got other gigs coming up, and as well as the launch in Marrickville that you've mentioned. I guess you've got some opportunities coming up too here on the beaches.
We do, yeah.
On the 26th of September, we're playing at the Humph Hall, which is the well-known unplugged venue up Lambie Road. Lovely spot. We've played there quite a few times, and we really appreciate the work that Wayne does up at the Humph Hall to promote local musicians.
I think we go down to the Kangaroo Valley Festival as well.
Oh, yeah.
And Kangaroo Valley Festival, we're playing there in October. It's a fabulous little festival. It's sort of got a really good spirit about it, and we've always enjoyed it.
And in closing, I am looking at the CD cover with the front cover illustration. What's that about? It's very striking picture, is it, of two very elegant-looking birds facing off with each other.
Cresting cranes they are. We found this picture. This was on a site of one of those sort of Creative Commons sites where the photos are free for use. But we've credited the photographer on the cover. Great. It was just like, we wanted the sense of musical differences. So a couple of birds sort of squawking at each other and having a bit of a contretemps,
And they've got very striking haircuts.
They have, yes. Very 80s, I thought.
Well, look, Stafford Sanders, Rod Crundwell. Stafford and Rod, it's been a pleasure as always talking with you. Always great fun. And it's been a treat catching up with your latest release that we've been discussing, Musical Differences, Men with Day Jobs. Take a listen, listeners. All the best with the launch and your gigs. And
thank you, Michael. And cheers to all the listeners of Radio Northern Beaches. We're always been big supporters of community radio. It's what makes Australian media special in our view.
Well, indeed, and I think we owe you a little bit of a thank you too, because I think we regularly use a wonderful little promo on behalf of Radio Northern Beaches that you guys wrote and recorded for us.
We better do another one, I think.
It's been going for a few years now, hasn't it?
It's a wonderful piece, I think. And every time
it reflects our schooling in the local surfy culture, I think.
It does. Thanks very much, guys, and all the best.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Okay, cheers.
Bye.